Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Bianca and I'm the Dream Team's director here at Church LV. We are so grateful for what God is doing through the church, and we'd love to hear about what He's doing in your life. You can share your story at churchlv.com/story. Here, we're all about following Jesus and fulfilling His mission. If you'd like to partner with us financially, you can do so by visiting us at churchlv.com/give. We hope this message speaks to you today. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching.
Romans 8:28, and we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to His purposes. Please, I'm going to ask you to turn around, give a person next to you a fist bump, take a seat, get comfortable. Thank you. So this morning, like I said, I don't normally preach a lot. I don't normally get on stage too much. So I want to make sure some of you guys kind of know who I am. So I'll start off very simple, kind of telling you a little bit of my testimony, kind of how I got here, what I'm doing here, why I'm still here. And so first of all, my name is Ivan. I'm one of the pastors here. What I normally do here during the week is oversee groups. I oversee, come on. Some of you guys are part of groups. I want to encourage you guys. If you guys are not part of groups, you guys need to get plugged in. That's how our church works. If you only come on the weekend, you get a very small portion of what we're all about. Really, groups is where you get most of what we have to offer, because what do we have to offer is you guys, us, each other, family. And so, I want to encourage you with that. I also oversee outreach, so we have Project 150 coming up. I want to make sure you guys go and sign up. I'm up here. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to make sure I plug the ministries I oversee. You know, it's what I do. It's kind of how I roll. But I'll go back to kind of telling you who I am and what I'm all about. I'll start a few years ago. Before I even came to the church, I was saved, obviously, when I was 14. God changed my life, and then from that point on, I started really devoting my life to Jesus and started going to a lot of mission trips. As I started going to a lot of mission trips, what I used to do is go and translate for teams that came from the States. And so as I kept on going to mission trips, I would always end up going to a place called Ensenada, Mexico. Ensenada is, a lot of people know it for fish tacos. That's kind of like their claim to fame, kind of what they do. If you guys like fish tacos, Mexican fish tacos, that's where they come from. That's where they're really delicious. They're good. And so I would always go translate, and my summers would consist of me going to 3 or 4 mission trips every summer. So as soon as I got off of school, obviously I was young, and I went on a mission trip, and I would translate. All this will make sense in just a moment, just in case you're wondering, why is he going all the way back to when he was 14? It'll make sense in a bit, okay? So as we traveled, there was always rumors of when the people that didn't go to Ensenada ended up going to another place called San Quintin. San Quintin would be more of a rural place, more of the people would work on the fields. There's a lot more need. There's a lot of stuff that isn't necessarily right. But as teams went down there, God would move. God would manifest, and healings would take place, and restorations of marriages, and incredible things happen. And I'm gonna say one thing that they were accustomed there is this. They had 2 places to go when they were sick. One was the church, and the other one was the witch doctor. That was the two options, because there's very few doctors, and the doctors that are there, they're not very equipped, so they would do more damage than good. And so all of a sudden, when teams would go there, God would start moving in such an incredible way that people would start coming and say, "I'm sick. I have this. I'm sick. I have that." And I never went to San Quintin. But I would hear the teams come back saying, "Wow, this girl was blind, and all of a sudden we prayed for her." And these are 15-year-old girls, 15-year-old kids that went down there and prayed for eyes to open up, and they would open up. There was one time where this girl didn't even have her ear; it didn't exist. It was just covered, and they prayed for this girl, and literally it was formed, like the ear was formed. The whole thing was formed. God moved because guess what? People were hungry, people needed it, and God always delivered. He's always faithful. He's not just a God of the good times. He's also God in the difficult times. He's always there. And so I say all that to give you context because one year, I was planning going to San Quintin. They loaded me up with a van with a team, I think, from Kansas City. And they said, you're going to San Quintin. And in my heart, I was pumped to go. I was ready to go. I'm like, I'm going to cast out demons. I'm going to see ears open up. I want to see eyes get all back. I was excited. That's what got me going. That's what I really enjoyed. I wanted to see that. But what ended up happening is, as the van was literally leaving the parking from San Diego, one of the leaders of the mission organization stopped the van and said, Ivan, you get down. And I'm just like, no, I'm here. I'm good. I got my seat. I got my seatbelt. I'm set. She's like, you need to get down. So all of a sudden I get down and she said, okay, plans changed. You're not going to San Quintin anymore. You're going to Ensenada. I'm like, why is that? Because, and what they said, it was a team from Las Vegas was going down there and they were going to be ministering, and the pastor who was going was one of the founders of this mission organization, which was Pastor Benny. So all of a sudden, I'm like, no, I don't want to go there. I'm like, I want to go to San Quintin. I don't know Pastor Benny. I don't know anything about Las Vegas. I've never been. I don't really care. I want to go to San Quintin. Come on. Like, don't hate on me now. I'm like, I'm ready for this. She said, no, you're going to go with him, period. And so I grabbed my stuff. I didn't even travel with the church team because all of a sudden, they were already gone. They were already in Ensenada. And so then I jump in with this other team, and I'm all bummed out. And I'm like, man, Lord, like, God, you were going to move, and the ear and the eyes. And I'm like, the ear and the eyes. I wanted the ear, Lord. Come on. And all of a sudden, I get to Ensenada. I meet the team. And I knew right away God had given me a no. And right now we're talking about the gift of no. Sometimes no comes and it's not what you expect, but it's what you need. It's not what you really want, but it's what you need. It's like you think you know better, but no, God still knows better than you. And so all of a sudden I meet this team, and there was something very different. And if you guys haven't noticed, it's obviously I'm talking about our church going down there. And it changed my life. The way the mission trips normally worked is very simple. During the day, you would minister kids. You would do like vacation Bible school. You would minister the kids, and then at night you would have revival services. And then God would move. What was very interesting is from the get-go, normally the way it works is teams would have 15 kids the first day, maybe 30 the next day, and then it would just increase. Maximum of the whole week, probably 50. When our church went, the first day we had 300. The second day we had 500, and then 600. And then the church was a small church, so it was literally overflowing with kids. It was amazing. And during one of the night experiences, I think somebody was preaching. I forget who was preaching, but God showed up in such a tangible way, such a powerful way that I heard a call, and he said, God told me actually, you're going to move to Vegas. You're going to go down there, and you're going to learn how they move. You're going to learn how they minister, and you're going to, more than anything, you're going to learn how they think. Because the reason why we had 300 the first day wasn't because we were doing anything different, but our team thought different. They weren't limited to only 15, 30, 50, maybe 60 in the end. We thought different. It's because all of a sudden God had obviously you're here and you hear our pastor preach all the time. He always preaches and the vision is big and large and you just go out there. So as God called me, I said yes. And if you know anything about Mexican moms or Mexicans, they don't let their kids leave their house until they're married and at least have 3 kids. And so when I told my parents, I'm rolling out, I'm going to Vegas, they're like, no, you're not, sir. No, you're not. And I'm like, well, God said it. Like, deal with him. eventually, you find me here. I have been here for many, many years, and now I am part of this amazing team that is really leading Las Vegas and ministering. I say all that to say this. God is intentional with every no he gives us. God is intentional with every no he gives us. Sometimes in life, we don't like no's. No's expose us. They make us think that all of a sudden the no is coming because we're not enough. They make us think that the no is coming because we are being overlooked. We're just being ignored. But one thing we need to understand as Christ followers is this. Every no, as well as every yes, is intentional. Because God is developing something in us that nothing else will develop. God puts us in a path for us to truly grow, be a challenge, and go to another level. So every no is intentional with God. One of the problems is this. As Christians, we could use this as an anchor, saying, you know what? God is faithful. God is good. God's intentional. So if I find myself right now in a situation where it's not very nice, we know that God's going to use it, put it all together, and work it out for our good. We know that. But the problem comes when we don't know what he's producing. We are out in the cold, and we feel that the no is simply just rejection when the no isn't rejection. No is simply the process we travel, the process we walk through to get to the final product that God has for us. The other problem is this, perspective. Sometimes as we sit, whatever we see is limited to our ability, to our understanding, to our life experience, to the culture we grew up with the mindset that we grew up with, and all of a sudden we only see a limited amount of real estate, if you want to call it that, or of destiny. But God isn't limited by perspective. God sees things, the beginning from the end. God sees you develop. God sees you strong. God sees you as a Christ follower. Even now, where you're starting the season, starting to walk it out. So that is the things that we need to understand as Christ followers, that is God is intentional, and our perspective shouldn't limit us, because we need to understand that God lives above all our perspectives, and he still has a plan for us. God knows what he's doing. God is guiding us and directing us. Now, the difficult moments really come when we ask ourselves, is God in this? Is God in this? What is he producing? What is it? Is he intentionally telling me no? What for? I want to encourage you. God is always with you. God is always firm. God is unshakable. And even as people, we're used to relationships. Sadly, that they say, I'm with you and I'm for you. And a few months down the road, they say, I'm not with you, I'm not for you. So all of a sudden, we see it through that lens, and we try to see God with that lens, saying, God, I know you said you're with me and you're for me, but did you see what I did yesterday? But did you see what I did last week? Did you see how much I'm struggling with this or that? Or all of a sudden, we try to convince God that we're good enough, but we know that we're not going to get there. But I want to remind you, it is by his grace. It is by his love. It is by his mercy. As I was reading this week, there was it was the Philippians, no, it was Galatians. I was reading the book of Galatians, and how God said, it's not about you. It's not what you've done. It's not what you will do. It's not how impressive your resume is. It's not how amazing you see yourself. It's all about me. And your response is simply just love me. Just come to me. You don't have to carry the weight of having to follow the law and all the things that the law is demanding. Just follow me. It's all about that. One of the stories that really hits home for me, especially in the season of no, when all of a sudden seasons of no come to your life and you didn't deserve them, you didn't ask for them. It's just they just show up, and for some reason you can't break through them. The person that comes up is David. Now, David is an amazing man. David is a man after God's own heart. He's amazing. There's no comparison. We can't compare any person here now with him, even though he's just as human as everybody else. But he was special. God called him and anointed him to be king, as he was doing exactly what his father asked him to do. But yet he entered a season of no simply for obeying God. Simply for listening to what God was saying, and for saying, okay, if you want to anoint me, anoint me. But what happened is the king that was anointed at that time, Saul, felt threatened. He felt threatened, and he said, you know what? This is my kingdom. It belongs to me. And even though you are amazing and you come and you play your harp or play your instrument and demons flee and you bring peace, all of a sudden he was still threatened and then started persecuting David to kill him. Sometimes our seasons of no will come and we will do nothing to deserve them. But God will still be present in those moments. Because as we see the story of David, there was many times where he felt so low that he felt he wasn't going to be able to survive. But God was there. God showed up. God moved different pieces, different places, different things. He was walking through the season of no, but God would still be there for him and encourage him. And now we get the Psalms. We get all those amazing songs that he wrote, saying, you know what? I felt lost, but yet you came. I felt lost, but yet you're here. God will always be with you in the season of no. God will never leave you. God will never abandon you. Now, I say all this to share with you a little bit more of my life. I know I didn't mention in the beginning, but I'm married to a beautiful woman. Her name is Claudia. She's sitting right here in the front row. And I am blessed with incredible kids. We have Michelle that's 13. We have Rocco that is 5. We have Leon that is 1. And then we have baby Emma that is 4 months going on 5 months. Now, baby Emma has quite a story because as some of you guys may know, some of you guys don't. We received really bad news as the pregnancy started. We went to the doctor, and I'll go in detail with kind of what went down. We went to the doctor, and all of a sudden, you know that when you go to the doctor, there's those moments where the ultrasound technician is just a talker. She's just like, yes, it's talking about all this stuff and how amazing the head looks and like the arms and everything. It's really cool. But when you hear your technician be quiet, you know something's not going very well. And so we had that experience with our baby Emma when we went first to the doctor, the first appointment, and as the technician started looking at the baby, she started getting more quiet and more quiet and more quiet, and all of a sudden, I don't know if this happens to you, but when I go into those rooms and they start doing all the ultrasound, I have no idea what I'm looking at. I think it's like a peach, and then it looks like what is that? Like, what is that? An apple? Like a banana? Like, what is in there? Like, I have no idea what's in there until like they literally line it out and they say, well, that's the brain, and then that's the arm. I'm like, that's the arm? What? I thought it was sausage, but it's not. It's just, I have no idea. And so as we were sitting there, she gets quiet. And we're still oblivious. We have no idea what's happening. We're like, look at her. It's not. Look at her heart. And we're just loving the moment. And instead of just being like probably a 5 to 10 minute ultrasound, it ended up being like a 30-minute ultrasound. And we're like, okay, this is a little bit weird. We've had a few experiences. We had Rocco, Leon. Basically, she delivered Leon, and then she got pregnant in the first I want to say 2 months or something like that. So everything, all the pregnancy stuff was very fresh. It's like we knew what we were doing. And then The lady steps out. Then she comes back in with a few doctors. And we're like, oh, man, this is already, it's not going good. The first thing the doctor says is, let's check it again. They check it again. And then she turns to us and says, there's something wrong with your baby. There's something not just wrong, but seriously wrong with your baby. At that moment, like, you feel like they dump like ice water on you. I don't know. It's like it just wakes you up, but it terrifies you, and it goes to the core of who you are, where it's like, oh, man, like, I'm shaking. It's like it got me. And they start saying, you know what? Her skeletal system looks good. Everything looks good. But the reality is that you see this little halo she has around her entire body. It's not supposed to be there. And basically what she was telling me is that baby Emma had so much fluid buildup inside of her that from the top of her head to the bottom of her rear was filled with liquid, so much so that she looked like a little balloon. And not only her back, but her chest, her legs, her feet. And it was a tough thing to see. Because baby Emma wasn't just like any baby. It's not just another baby. It's God's promise to Claudia and I. Because even before we had Leon and Rocco, God had given me baby Emma's name. God had told me that we were going to have a little girl. Now, as we had Rocco, we said, okay, well, we'll have another one. It's fine. It's a boy. He's awesome. He's amazing. And when we had difficulties conceiving Leon, we went through all those seasons of harsh no's where we wanted a baby and it wasn't happening. Year after year after year, it wasn't happening. And then all of a sudden, we kind of give up, and then God says, okay, I'll give it to you. And then we get Leon, and we're like, God, you said he was going to be a girl. Like, I love Leon, don't get me wrong, but Lord, I got the name. What am I going to do with the name? Do I buy, like, literally my mindset, and this is just a little glimpse into the way my brain works. I'm like, I'm just going to buy a dog and call it Emma. Because I'm like, God, you promised it. You're gonna get me an Emma. Come on. But as we know now, God has gave us a little girl, and now that we're telling us, it ain't gonna work out. It was so hard to hear when we asked, is it possible for her to get better? And the doctor said, it's impossible. I've been seeing this and doing this for 20 years. The doctor next to her had been doing it for 28 years. They said every child that we see with this type of condition never makes it. She is as good as dead. We strongly recommend for you to abort, because this is what's going to happen. She's going to die in there, and the more time you take, it's going to make it harder for your wife to deliver. There will be a point where she's going to be large enough where she will have to deliver naturally, but she will deliver a dead baby, and that is very hard to deal with. When we went home, obviously we were broken. It was very, very tough to hear. And I try to be very strong. And if you ask Claudia, I don't think I ever cried in front of her. I think I had one of my moments where I cried, but I was by myself. Nobody was there because I wanted to support her. I wanted her to know that I was here, and we were gonna overcome this. But as we got home, we said, God, you know what you're doing. We know that you are intentional with everything you do. We choose to believe that you will bring life. But in the end, if you choose to take her, we will still trust you. It was very difficult to say that out loud. And it wasn't like we said the first day. It was a process. We had to walk through a few things to really have it sink in and say, you know what? We do trust you, Lord. We know that you are good. What ended up happening a few months later And we kept on going to the doctor, and it was really hard because every time we went, we thought that we were going to get the bad news that she was dead. And so it was like anxiety started attacking us, like depression, everything started getting to our minds. And so we're like, oh man, like we need to snap out of this and we need to go. And we would go and they would say, she's still there. She's still there. She's still there. One night actually, Claudia and I were talking about this morning, and I wanted to make sure I communicated correctly. One night, all of a sudden, Claudia remembers the question that she asked, is it impossible for her to get better? And the doctor said, yes, it's impossible. But God woke her up saying, watch me do it. Watch me do it. The really incredible thing, as God told her that as she was dreaming, God woke me up that exact moment. I wake up, I look at her and I said, what was that? She didn't wake me up. Like God was in the room. God was present. God was there where we needed him to be. And so I turn around and I say, what was that? And she said, God told me, watch me do it. Immediately in my heart, there was a fire that said, I'm going to latch on to this. And I am not going to let it go for anything. No matter what the doctors say, no matter what the ultrasound say, no matter what anybody says, I am grabbing on, and you can call me the crazy guy. I'm not going to let go. My daughter's going to live. God's going to do the impossible. After this all happened, we still had to wait a whole month before we went to the doctor's appointment. So we're like, God, you're good. God, you're good. You're going to do it. You're going to do it. Lord, come on. And I got really militant. I'm just like, Lord, you're going to do it. I would tell my wife, it's like, you can't say it's not going to happen. I'm like, and then the kids, they're like, we don't know what's happening. I'm like, you're not going to say it's not going to happen. I was like telling everybody, I'm like, it's going to happen. Like, there was going to be, my doubt was not going to be a hindrance. I was just going to jump in, go in the deep end, and I'm like, Lord, you're going to have to pull me out. You know, I'm just going to go in there. What was really awesome, we went to the doctor the next time, and obviously you're all ready for what's going to happen. We go in there, they start the ultrasound. And again, I don't know if it's sausage, I don't know if it's what I don't know what it is. I don't know what I'm looking at right now. All of a sudden the doctor comes back, looks at all the pictures, leaves. Then comes back again. And he said, I have some news for you guys. She's getting better. She's getting a lot better. And he goes on to say, you know what's so interesting is the first time we saw the baby, all the technicians got together. All the doctors, it's high risk pregnancy is right around the corner. They're great doctors. This is not like a bash on them or anything like that. But they all got together and they said, this is the worst case we've ever seen. This is horrible. And they actually kept it for like reference and kind of like for them to study and for them to do all that stuff. And he said, I walked in here, saw the pictures, and I had to walk out because I thought I was in the wrong room. Because the same little girl that I saw then wasn't the same little girl that I was seeing now. It was incredible because it went from, she's gonna die, she's as good as dead, it's time for you to go and abort her and stop it, to, this girl's probably gonna live. They were still very optimistic, probably. They always added it probably. But we knew that God had spoken. That God is intentional. That God is with us in the good moments. And God is with us especially in the seasons of knowing, the seasons of real tough difficulty, really walking through this journey. Now, as I kind of speed it up a little bit, she keeps on getting better, As she is about to be born, were terrified because she still had a coarctation of the aorta. What that means is basically her aorta got so small that it wasn't able to, enough blood wasn't able to pass through the aorta to supply the bottom part of her body. And so they said the delivery might be really intense. It might be very dangerous. If there's a lot of stress or a lot of pressure, we could lose her there. Just period. But what was really amazing was our church was praying for us. The staff was praying for us. Pastor Benny and Pastor Wendy were praying for us. And in that day where she was about to be delivered, there was so much peace in the room that I've never gone through delivery. I don't know what that feels like. I don't know what that is, and I'll be foolish if I talked about it as if I knew. But my wife has. And she said, this is so different. There's so much peace in this place. I don't even feel pain. Then she delivered Emma. She got whisked up to PICU right away because she was going to have open heart surgery. And Claudia and I were like amazed that everything went perfectly. Now, we have to navigate through the actual open heart surgery, and that was terrifying. But God has been faithful. God would be faithful, and God kind of helped us through that entire thing. Where now we're blessed to have a 4-month-old, going on 5-month-old little baby girl that wasn't supposed to be here, but thanks to God, she is. I say all that story to say this. You can't come and tell Claudia and I that our God isn't real. You can't. You can't come and tell us that he doesn't do miracles. You just can't. It doesn't compute. It doesn't enter our minds. It's impossible for us to think, oh, God doesn't do miracles. Why? Because we walked through a season of no that shook us to the core of who we were and created a foundation that literally is unshakable. A foundation that was built brick by brick by our God, going through one process, one night of crying, another night of crying, another night of crying, brick by brick being built up. And so, how does this relate to you? God is working all things together for your good. If you are here this morning and you're kind of just you're just going through one of those issues where it's shaking you to the core, know God is for you. God is being intentional. God is building you up. And I have a scripture that really helped us in this season. And it's Job 42, 6. It says, I'm not paraphrase it, but I'm just going to read a specific part. I had only heard about you before, but now I have seen you with my own eyes. That's what a season of no does in your life. That's why we shouldn't run from them. That's why we shouldn't be scared of them. Because we should know that God becomes real in those seasons. What a million yeses can never achieve, a simple no will produce in you.